Hi, I'm Dan Neer. After storming through the 90s with a string of platinum and multi-platinum albums and EPs in Alice in Chains, guitarist-songwriter Jerry Cantrell took a break. Of sorts.
I'd never really been in this situation before, so it was just, again, just kind of taking it day by day and taking it easy,
Jerry headed off on his own and recorded and released his solo debut, Boggy Depot.
I didn't want this to be something that was forced. I wanted it to be very fun. I wanted it to be, spontaneous. So, luckily I was able to have the time to allow everything to develop, naturally how it was going to do, however it was going to be, without having any preset idea of what it was going to be about, except for the songs, that was about it.
Welcome to part one of Media America Radio's Jerry Cantrell. Up Close. From Boggy Depot, that was Jerry Cantrell singing his song, My Song.
I've never been a lead vocalist, let's put it that way. It was a little different, stepping into it, this type of situation and being, at the mic full time. It takes a lot of strength, which I had really, I really hadn't done before. I'd do backups and just sit back and play a little bit and maybe sing lead on a couple of songs or whatever. But to do it for a full set or for a full record, it takes a lot of work. And again, I just allowed myself the time to get comfortable with it, instead of putting something down that I felt I was really reaching for, or it wasn't really solid or natural, And it's been working out really great.
Cut You In, from Jerry Cantrell's superb solo debut, Boggy Depot. The video for that song features Jerry's dad, Jerry Sr., a.k.a. The Rooster. Jerry also kept it close to home for the album and the touring band, calling on old friends and acquaintances like Sean Kinney, Mike Inez, and ex-Queensryche guitarist Chris DeGarmo.
And I've known all of these players and on the record and on the road for years and admired, what they do, as well as just being friends. It's kind of a brotherly kind of thing. It's like, it's a respect thing, but it's also fun. I've just known these guys for a long time, and when it came time to do the record, I gave them a call. They were people that I would really like to jam with, and we've talked about jamming with, and I called up quite a few guys, thinking that they had their own bands and their own projects going on, so I probably wouldn't be able to get everybody, but I would put the call out to everybody and see who was interested, and luckily it worked out. It was just really cool. It was a real natural thing, and the touring band was pretty much the same way.
Jerry Cantrell's Dick Eye from Boggy Depot. Coming up, we'll head for the birthplace of grunge, Seattle, Washington, right after this. We're back up close just in time for the birth of Alice, as of yet unchained. Alice was conceived in the musically nutrient-rich background of Seattle, Washington in the late 1980s. But while the likes of Kurt Cobain and Eddie Vedder were experimenting with what was to become grunge, the future members of Alice in Chains were honing a sharper edge. Drummer Sean Kinney and Jerry Cantrell.
There was a big buzz about, Mother Love Bone and Soundgarden getting signed to A&M and Polygram, and we were looked at by them among many other record companies, and they all said, "No thanks, you suck."
It's happened.
So we kept playing, and a guy who just happened to see us and at the Music Bank, he was working at ASCAP at the time, and he had gotten a job at A&R, Nick Terzo, with Columbia, and gave us a call and said he'd like to do a deal. So we went through 6 months of real fun negotiations, sitting
nail biting. Bite your nails.
It sounds like you guys are real smart, though, because you were haggling over important stuff, right?
Well, that's the intelligence can be bought too. These days.
Get good lawyers. Good lawyers. Good people on your side.
It's pretty much just common sense. So then we signed and we did the record.
Got Me Wrong originally appeared on the 1992 EP Sap and was also included on the soundtrack to the movie Clerks. Alice in Chains actually made a brief appearance in 1992's flick Singles. Here's Jerry.
That was pretty easy. We just jammed. We just did it did a bunch of takes of it and recorded it live at the show there. You know, Cameron had asked us to do a couple songs in the movie, and so we definitely were into that, and that was a really easy thing. You know, we just kind of jammed on the stage, and it was fun. It's a good deal.
Wood was part of the soundtrack to the movie Singles. Alice in Chains cleans up with dirt when Media America Radio's Up Close returns to your antenna. Here's Jerry and Sean now with a tale of tracking dirt.
We were in the studio. It was like the first day that we started tracking, and we were sitting in the room playing pool or something in the other room because we don't work real hard. And
well, that's part of the process of recording. Pool is important.
Exactly.
TV, pool, food,
popcorn,
pinball,
then recording.
We're in there, and we go, wow, I can't believe they made that verdict. There's going to be a riot. We figured there'd be a little riot. We didn't know there's going to be a full-scale war with tanks driving up and down the street. Yeah. So that was really weird. We had to drive through it that night, but definitely something I couldn't believe that was going on.
Was that pretty frightening driving through it?
It was just insane. I can't believe that was going on, you know. And I just couldn't believe the stupidest thing I ever saw. Every asshole in the world with a gun that's been sitting around polishing his gun, waiting for that day, you know. And everybody was out just running around shooting and you know, ramming their cars in the fronts of stores. I mean, it was insane.
A lot of the songs that you guys make are not exactly in the cheerful mode of things.
I like to call them peppy, zesty little ditties.
Yeah. They're very heavy. I mean, very, very heavy.
We tried to get Joel Gray to sing on a couple, but he was busy.
Yeah. This is in the vein of making Layne work harder, I see.
Alice in Chains released their second acoustic-oriented EP, Jar of Flies. It became the first EP ever to debut at #1 on the Billboard album charts. Jerry Cantrell.
We always wanted to do different things, but we didn't want to make big waves doing it and lose people in the process. So we just put it in the stores. We didn't really advertise it, and it was like something for like the real fans who were out looking for it to find. And that's what Jar of Flies was kind of too. It's something for, you know, the fans to have while we were maybe gone until making the next full-length record, you know, and also a little different slant, you know, a little different flavor.
Hi, I'm Dan Neer. Last time on part 1 of Jerry Cantrell Up Close.
You know, we had done Dirt, and that was a pretty heavy, dark record, you know, so, I mean, we were pretty heavied out at that point.
Jerry and the rest of Alice's boys were sorely in need of some lightening up, so they set about hatching a Jar of Flies.
That was a really fun record to make. It was super spontaneous, you know. We wrote and recorded those songs in 7 days, with the exception of Don't Follow, which I had written on a previous European tour. We came into the studio and didn't have any ideas. Nobody came in with anything concrete, which was really weird because we always had, you know, at least, you know, I'd bring in a couple, Layne would bring in a couple, you know, whatever, and we didn't have nothing on that one, man. We just totally winged it and made a great record.
Seems like a good place to pick up part 2 of Media America Radio's Jerry Cantrell Up Close. No Excuses came from Jar of Flies, an EP put out by Alice in Chains to keep rabid fans at bay until the next full-length album was ready. Here's Jerry.
You know, it's basically waves, you know. It's like, I don't know what we'll come up with next. I don't know if we'll put on another acoustic EP. I mean, I think we've done enough EPs. 3 EPs, 3 records, and 2 soundtracks in 5 years. That's a lot. We'd been touring constantly, pretty much. We were either in a studio or on the road for the most part for 6 years, 7 years, you know, and it was good. It is good, but it was definitely time to take a breather, you know, and take a look around, you know, at life in general, you know, instead of just the rock life, you know, and you know, we even though we had been doing fairly well record-wise, sale-wise, and we'd been playing everywhere. All over the place, you know, we never really had the opportunity to take advantage of it because we were never home, you know. So basically, that was a big part of the time off we took, was all just kind of finding our little spots and starting to build a life.
Grind, the opening track of Alice in Chains' self-titled 1995 CD, an album that caused much controversy in far-off Japan. Jerry Cantrell.
They were offended at the not only the cover art, but the back cover art as well, with a three-legged dog and a three-legged man, and it was something that they were just not going to release. So we felt pretty strongly about it, even though we're, on a Japanese label on Sony, we felt pretty strongly about the artwork, and so, it's just the way we saw it. We called it as a group, so they didn't release it, until much later, where we decided to, if, we weren't going to change the artwork, but if they wanted to release the album, they could release it with no artwork, which is what we did, The other thing of it is we figured, and we found out, we did some research on it, that Japanese fans could still get the record through like import stores and mail service, and even pay less than they would pay for it in Japan and get the artwork. So that's why we decided not to release it, because we figured they could get it anyway, and they did.
That was Alice in Chains again. For even more, listen on as Jerry tells us about Heaven Beside You.
I wrote that for my girlfriend and myself. She's the heaven beside me, and I've got my own hell with it. Basically, it's like, I never ceases to amaze me, myself included, how simple, the life can be, if you just settle down and don't get distracted, get lost in all the distraction, and it's, in this business, it's real easy to do that, and very, very easy to lose yourself, and that song means a lot to me because it's pretty personal, about my relationship with her, and about having the best thing in the world right next to you, but not being able to feel it, at a particular time, I feel it now, and now we're not together. It kind of sucks, Oh, it always works out that way.
Heaven Beside You. Coming up, Alice pulls the plug and ends up down a hole when part 2 of Jerry Cantrell Up Close returns.
They'd asked us a lot of times to do that show, and for whatever reason, we never did it.
Jerry Cantrell on Alice in Chains' decision to do MTV Unplugged, and a quick rundown of that dazzling light show.
It was just one of those things that they called, and we finally accepted. But we had a good time too. It was a really good show.
Like, what was the deal with, like, say, the candles?
Well, Layne has a bunch of those big-ass candles, and he got them down at the Pike Place Market, which is a little marketplace down here in Seattle.
And is that the brand name, Big Ass Candle?
Big Ass Candle, I think, is like the brand name, made by Acme. Yeah, they're gigantic and they burn forever. So we figured, Layne thought it'd be a good idea to get a bunch of those and put them on the stage. We've never been a band that really likes a whole lot of bright light on stage anyway. It's kind of like we like to keep it a little bit more dark and a little bit more moody, and so it fit, what we wanted to do, and we bought a hell of a lot of candles, and MTV did the rest by setting the stage up the way they did. It was really nice.
Originally found on dirt that was down in a hole from 1996's Alice in Chains Unplugged. In the audience that night were some old buddies, Metallica, Jerry Cantrell.
They were in the crowd, so it was kind of really nice too. Our friends were out there, and we hadn't played in such a while, and it was really cool. Basically what we picked was what sounded good, and how we did that was rehearsing and just going down, just making a big master list of what everybody thought might sound good, and then just playing them through and finding out what really did sound good and what sounded like so we just basically stuck with what sounded good, and what we were having a fun time playing. We hadn't played in such a while that we wanted to make it as fun as possible for all of us, and also play the songs that everybody would like to hear.
Over now, recorded under the bright glare of big-ass candles for Alice in Chains Unplugged. Jerry Cantrell plugs in to Carrie's cable television network. Next on Up Close.
You mean illegal cable? Who told you that? What is his name? I want it. You're offering me a bribe. What you have just done is illegal. And in this state, if convicted, you could be fined up to $5,000 or spend 6 months in a correctional facility. I'm just jerking your chain. I'll juice you up.
For those of you who've spent the past few years living in a cave, you might be forgiven for not recognizing the great comedic voice of the 90s, Jim Carrey. Unfortunately, the movie Cable Guy bombed. But to borrow a phrase from Jerry Cantrell, it had a big-ass soundtrack, including Jerry's Leave Me Alone.
Yeah, it was a song that I wrote back around the Alice in Chains record again. A lot of stuff came about at that time that we didn't end up using, and I was basically demoing all the stuff at my house. A lot of the songs that we used on that record. That song was I had off a demo of it at the same time, and it was one of the few left over, that we didn't end up like all grooving on and putting on the record. And Ben Stiller called our management and asked if I was interested in doing a song, so I sent the demo, and Sean had already heard it before, and they fell in love with it. So we went back and cut it again, cut it right. Rock is rock, basically. It doesn't matter what you want to call it. It's all rock. You want to call it whatever. The title shift and the alternative, modern, hard rock, metal, punk, whatever. It's all rock and roll, basically. What really concerns me is writing good music, and that's the title that. You're right. Is it good music, or is it something that translates, that people dig? Do you get an enjoyment out of it?
Keep the light on from Jerry Cantrell's Boggy Depot. Keep your waders on. Up Close isn't over yet. We'll be right back. I'm Dan Neer for Media America Radio's Up Close. Life is being good to Jerry Cantrell. 5 platinum albums and EPs with Alice in Chains, movie soundtracks, and now a solo album. Jerry is currently taking a break from a tour with Metallica, but they're going to be back on the road in a couple of weeks, after which Jerry and his band take off on their own on a headlining tour.
The whole thing's been great, a lot of successful years, with Alice, and bringing it from a ground level up to where it is, has been a real trip, and it's been really fun, so, the whole thing's great, I can't say that one thing's better than something than another. It's a pretty incredible gift to be able to do this,
Gone to California.
From Jerry Cantrell's Boggy Depot, that was Between. By the way, the album is named for the area in Oklahoma where Jerry's father grew up. A place where roots grow deep.
This Christmas, hopefully, if all goes well, my father and I are building a house together in Oklahoma, so we'll be able to have our first family Christmas in many, many, many years in our family home.